And now, SiliconANGLE TV and Wikibon.org present a Focus Spotlight. Live from Las Vegas at VMworld 2011, host John Furrier and Dave Vellante illuminating storage optimization with support from IBM Real-Time Compression, new storage efficiency for primary active data.
Okay, we're back. This is Dave Vellante. We're live at VMworld 2011, SiliconANGLE and Wikibon's continuous coverage of VMworld. It is an unbelievable event, 19,000 people here. Go to siliconangle.tv, go to siliconangle.com, get all the information on this event. Check out wikibon.org. We've got teams of people that are covering this show like a blanket. This is the storage optimization segment, and I'm here with Steve Kenniston, my friend, colleague, and co-host sometimes.
Hey,
Steve,
Dave. Good to see you again.
Thanks for coming on. So, Steve, we're going to talk about compression, and specifically we're going to talk about real-time compression. We have these spotlights this year. They're in-depth segments. They're sponsored segments, as you know. IBM's sponsoring this one. You're with IBM. So I want to pick your brain about compression, real-time compression, what it means, what you guys are doing, why it's different. I'm going to ask you some tough questions, but let's get into it. So you were with StoreWise. StoreWise was acquired by IBM.
Correct.
Made an appliance, and you guys today are selling an appliance.
That's correct. So we have an appliance that is, we call the IBM Real-Time Compliance for NAS. It's an appliance that sits, on the opposite side of your storage switch, right in front of your storage array. Right? So as data gets passed through the appliance, we do compression in real time. The interesting thing is as we do the compression, we compress the data before it gets to the array, which, you've got the right guy on. I'm not a sales guy, right? I'm a technologist, and I'll tell it like it is, right? So while I do believe, and I will agree with you, and this is probably one of your tough questions coming up, is, the embedded solution becomes maybe a little bit easier to manage, right? But until they solve this notion of being able to do compression in real time, there's not a whole lot of value to doing it on the array. Because if you start doing it on the array, you start having a tremendous amount of system resource and performance impact. So by us doing what I call compression offload in the wire, we can actually compress the data before it gets to the array, and there are a couple benefits of being able to do that. One of those benefits is that by shrinking the data before I actually move that disk actuator arm, I give a lot of those system resources back to the storage CPU, so it can actually do more work in the same amount of time. The other thing is, by compressing it transparently before it gets to the array, whatever I get for a compression ratio, let's say just 2-to-1 for this example, I actually double my storage cache. And thirdly, because we actually do read caching in the appliance, you actually get read cache hits out of the appliance as well. So we have customers with 65, 70% compression that actually get a performance boost because they're actually doing compression before it ever gets to the array.
And that was one of my questions, is the whole embedded thing. Now, you made a statement, there's really no value if you're taking a big performance hit. Let's talk about that a little bit. There's value, but the value is not real-time value. It's with more stale data that's not accessed. Is that fair?
I think that's very fair. I know people who have implemented compression in a post-process manner on some of the competitive technologies like EMC or NetApp that are actually getting value. So maybe value wasn't the proper term. However, right, as the world, as we just looked in some of those charts before, slowly moves to a real-time world where I don't have this time to wait, right, for information or access to my information, and I have more and more users accessing my information maybe in a big data environment or in a cloud environment, right? My question back to people who are doing it not in real time is, why aren't you? You better start getting on that bandwagon now, because sooner or later you're gonna end up playing catch up, and you don't want to end up playing catch up.
Well, the reason I asked that value question is because to me it speaks of an architectural issue maybe, or a paradigm problem. In other words, why is that stuff on primary storage to begin with?
It's a very good point.
Why not, through some kind of whatever, automated tiering or some kind of process, age-based classification criteria, whatever we want to use, get it off there. And maybe compress it before you get it off. I mean, tape has had compression for years, right?
Sure.
So is that what most of this stuff does, is like tape-like compression, or is it just keeping it on disk?
Yeah,
so you
I
can
think
sell more discs.
Yeah, we talked in the spotlight a little bit before, right? So users are always afraid to throw stuff away, right? And that's understandable. You never know when you might need something. The question is there starts to be a disparity between the information that you have online and available and your ability to access it and utilize it. And I think what we're seeing right now is people want that stuff online because of the what if or just in case. The issue is that as I start to get applications that have the ability to access more capacity and do it faster, now all of a sudden I make that data, what was not as valuable, more valuable. And the question, we have to kind of wait for these analytic tools to kind of catch up to be able to have access to that information. But today, IBM has 5 key technologies that they believe are that you need to implement for storage efficiency. You have tiering, thin provisioning, virtualization, compression, and deduplication. Right? I'd say all but deduplication today is ready for prime time for what I would consider real time. I mean, if you think about the easy tier technology, right, we have the ability to move information by just looking at a snapshot, not a snapshot, by looking at the data in real time and moving it to the right platform. Virtualization and thin provisioning, I think everybody would agree, once you turn it on, it's kind of on. It just, you virtualize and you thin provision, you virtualize across your different data sets and you thin provision on the fly as you need to. Compression is really that next step into that real-time platform. So what's really unfortunate is the fact that we actually call it real-time compression. Here I am, the real-time compression evangelist, saying it's unfortunate we call it real-time compression. What we've actually invented, right, is this platform that allows you to do almost anything real-time. So today we actually plug in compression. We use industry standard LZ compression. It's the same compression that Microsoft uses for its .x files. It's the same compression Oracle uses for the compression of its files. But what we've been able to do is the intellectual property on either side of that compression capability allows us to look at the information stored in such a manner that when we need to access it, maybe we don't need to go get all of the information. Maybe we just get pieces of the information. And by only getting pieces of information, you're creating a lot less I/O. And we all know in VMware, right, I've got more servers accessing less physical infrastructure. If I can reduce the I/O, I can increase performance. So those things start to compound themselves and it ends up making the entire solution stack a little bit better.
Yeah, so that's new information to me. This notion of you wish you hadn't called it compression is a real-time blank.
Right.
So where else can you apply it?
So, through the acquisition process into the company, the company had filed patents for being able to do things like quality of service, things like antivirus monitoring and that sort of thing. And there's a whole host of other things that we'd have the availability to be able to plug into this real-time platform. And I think the real key innovation here is this real-time platform. And as I talked about before, we know that users buy storage and buy their storage platforms for a couple of reasons, right? It's performance and availability, right? So whatever we want to introduce into those platforms, we need to make sure that we don't have an impact on performance or availability. So how do you do that, right? And you're going to see, technologies such as compression and that sort of thing start to get deeper and deeper into the IBM product set. And in each stack, we're going to make sure that there's no impact to those key characteristics for which users buy storage. It's unfortunate, I say, that we named it compression because I think, competitors like EMC and NetApp have gone to set a market value of a technology called compression for free. And you don't really get anything for free, right? And as your core report points out, right? The closer I want to be able to get to be able to do this in real time, I need to increase CPU, I need to increase memory, that's not really free, right? Our whole objective is how do you actually build a platform inside of our storage technologies that actually allows this stuff to add value to the user without having that tremendous impact.
Well, I mean, I can attest that I've talked to customers from NetApp and EMC about their compression. They're very careful about where they apply it. In fact, if you read the documentation, they will tell you, don't just turn it on. Even though Dave Hitz will tell you, hey, turn it on, try it. But they'll be very specific that you got to be careful that it doesn't impact performance. I've talked to many of your customers, one in particular, Burson Engineer from Shopzilla. And that was enlightening to me in terms of the degree to which it actually improved performance. The issue is you got to get more customers. So, and I think that embedding that technology is really going to be a killer combination. So, I mean, this is the Storage Optimization Spotlight at VMworld 2011. I'm Dave Vellante, and I'm here with Steve Kenniston. I'm with Wikibon.org, and this is SiliconANGLE's continuous coverage of VMworld 2011. We're here from Vegas Go to siliconangle.com, siliconangle.tv. Check out Services Angle, our newest publication. Check out Cloud Angle. Check out wikibon.org for all the coverage. We'll be covering this show like a blanket. SiliconANGLE, the worldwide leader in tech coverage, and we'll be right back.